Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is KC Onyebuchi and John Keys.
I mean, so usually there's something more. So, okay. Hey, guys.
Yes, no insults today. That's the surprise.
No. Yeah, it's almost like a verbal abusive relationship now. We don't know how to act. Okay? Put it out there. Goodness.
Yeah, see, I didn't update the insults on the run sheet, so I decided I would just roll with it and not do any.
Oh, almost.
I don't like the start over.
Do you want me to come up with some insults real fast? I'm sure I could do that.
No. We are good.
Let's go right into it. The UFC traveled to Melbourne, Australia for a Middleweight Showcase featuring Australian Robert Whitaker facing off against Kelvin Gastelum in a championship bout. But an emergency caused that fight to get scratched, and the co-main event was promoted to the main event where the aging Anderson the Spider Silva sought to prove that this isn't a young man's sport against one of the most electrifying strikers in the sport today. That is the Last Stylebender, Israel Adesanya.
Two quick things.
What?
Where'd they fight again?
Melbourne.
Fair enough. And why you got to put aging on? Like
yeah.
Or something, man. Come on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't aging? We're literally all marching towards an inevitable death. So, come on.
Okay, you guys are super critical. First of all, Melbourne is the correct pronunciation of that city.
Not according to the Last Stylebender, and he's officially the king of that city now.
No. It's Melbourne. And then secondly, the spider's getting a little bit old in the tooth, going the way of Charlotte from Charlotte's Web. It's time for him to make little spiders.
So where's Joel Romero on this? Because he's like 40. He's like 48. Okay, he's still working people over. You know.
Well, he's aging too, but he's aging gracefully.
I mean, so we'll get into this in the fight card or the official decision.
All right.
I disagree.
Okay,
heavily.
Let's go into the official decision. The official decision. This is the official decision. This is where we're looking back at the fights that were on Sunday in Australia, Saturday for us. This was UFC 234, originally Whitaker versus Gastelum. Then it became Adesanya versus Silva. It was taking place on February 10th, 2019 in Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne, Australia. Let's talk about what happened. I said there was an emergency in kind of the intro. The emergency was Robert Whitaker pulled out of the fight, out of the main event, with a collapsed bowel, an abdominal hernia. That's some real stuff, man.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, no, I actually looked it up, man. It's not only is it real, it's kind of disgusting. Okay, it's probably one of the more foul things I've seen in life, man. So, I'm glad he's okay, to be quite honest, because that can kill you. That's a killer right there, people.
So this is the second time that he's backed out of a fight, like fight week. So in UFC 221, he had a staph infection. He couldn't fight, so they had to have a late fight replacement. Luke Rockhold fought Yoel Romero, and remember all of that debacle that went down. And then in UFC 234, he had this collapsed bowel. The thing is that I guess the big question I have is he too tough for the UFC's own good? And the reason why I asked that question is because this dude knew that he had a collapsed bowel. Like, he's been hurting and he's been fighting this pain the whole time. But he allowed the UFC to go through all of the media, get everything set up, and then the day before you go, okay, I can't take the pain anymore, I gotta go to the hospital. Like, if you're hurt, you're hurt. It's better to pull out 2 weeks in advance or 3 weeks in advance than pull out the day before the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but isn't that what you guys want? Is a super tough fighter who's willing to fight through anything?
No.
And isn't that what we have UFC doctors to be clearing them out right before we get them in the ring?
Yeah, but you still have to self-report for something like that, and
Yeah.
that's too much money on the line to not fight. Like, I see why you're like, all right, no matter what, hell or high water, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But then you end up pulling out. Like, that's the thing, right? Is that he ended up pulling out of the fight. So all of that not pulling out earlier. Wow. Let's use other terminology. All of that.
You get UFC baby
Suffering through the pain was not worth it because he ended up having to cancel the fight anyway. So it would have been better. At least the UFC could have salvaged the card if he would have been upfront with it. Be like, hey, Dana, I'm having some serious abdominal pain, and I don't know if I can make it to the fight. I'm going to keep going, but there may be a chance for me to pull out. At least Dana White could have been like, okay, Israel, Anderson, hey, you guys are going to have to back up. Kelvin, this is what the situation is. So in the event that he has to pull out, I would need you to start preparing for Israel to be the backup. Because I would much rather have seen a main event for an interim title between Israel Adesanya and Kelvin Gastelum than
was what the talk was originally.
Rather than not see a title fight that night and see Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya. By the way, I do have to say, I'm saying I'd rather see that. I didn't get to watch this fight. I was scheduled to watch this fight. It was all planned. It's on the calendar, but not trying to throw my wife under the bus, but
I will.
Beep, beep. There's a bus coming. So that was the big question.
Great one. I literally got off a plane and went straight to Buffalo Wild Wings and had to watch that fight. There's too much excitement.
All right, let's get through the card. But just so we can tie a bow on this, should Robert Whitaker have pulled out earlier?
No.
Yeah, because this could have killed him.
Yeah, I think that it should. Yeah.
He I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love my fighters being tough, okay? And I understand that warrior mentality and everything about, I'll die in the ring. I get it. I understand it. But we got to have better safeguards than this, people. Maybe, like I said, if the fighter isn't going to do it, if his team isn't going to do it, you've got to be able to stop him at the organization level. Have a doctor check these guys regularly on this.
Yeah, but right? I'm with KC on this. You got to self-report. How are you going to know that? How is a doctor going to know that you're having this abdominal pain unless you say something? I mean,
I would give them if me being fight organization, I would gave fighters like a quarterly full diagnostic checkup.
Quarterly, okay. But yeah, okay. I don't know that would have caught it. Because it seems as though I don't know if he's been suffering for it for 3 months, but
I think if you grab him by the gonads, he would have yelled. Okay,
you grab any dude by the gonads, they're gonna yell.
Well, I'm not talking about the normal gonads yell. It would have been
not Chael Sonnen.
It's not the typical turn your head and cough type situation, okay, with a hernia.
I don't think
know that this is beneficial.
Yeah. Let's go into the fight card.
Are we going down a rabbit hole here?
Jim Crute defeated Sam Alvey via TKO in round 1. Montana De La Rosa defeated Nadia Kassim via submission in round 2. Ricky Simon defeated Rani Yahya via unanimous decision. And in the main event of the evening, Israel, the Last Stylebender Adesanya defeated Anderson the Spider Silva via unanimous decision. Now, like I said before, I didn't get to watch this card because even though it was on the calendar, my daughter's 13th birthday preempted that. And so I had to babysit and didn't get to watch the fights on the card. So tell me, how was the fight?
Wait, did you just blame this on your daughter's birthday?
No, so this is what was supposed to happen. Let me just kind of give y'all some more information. So they went to this big water park in the middle of the winter, no less. But it's Texas, so it was like 60 degrees. Anyway, they were supposed to leave at noon. But then one person couldn't make it, so they're supposed to leave it 2. Then another person couldn't make it, so they decided to move it to 4. Well, at that point, there's no way they were going to get back in time for me to go and watch the fights. So while people are like, why don't you just watch it at home? Because I got 2 little kids. So I'm not watching it here, which is why I go out and watch it. But because they weren't back yet, and they didn't come back till like 11. I didn't get to watch it. So, but 235 is a different story. We'll get into that later. But so tell me about the Israel Adesanya Anderson Silva fight.
I think we need to go back a little bit further than that, because that was an early stoppage, and well, we're going to talk about that more later. Israel Adesanya, good, phenomenal, as we thought it was going to be. A lot of respect at the beginning, first round, and then second round they're like, yes, respect. We respect each other. Now let's get to it. And they started to bang. A lot of good shots, a lot of whizzing by. And then a lot of crying at the end. I was crying. I cried at a fight. Yeah.
I thought it was a great fight for fans who know a bit more of the history. So I think in the first round there was a lot of just waiting and feeling each other out, but for very good reason. So Anderson Silva is arguably one of the best counter strikers that has ever been in the game. An absolute legend when it comes to his ability to set you up so that you overcommit to any combination, and he will destroy you. So Israel had to do a really good job of keeping his distance and at the same time not overcommitting and pressing the pace. So not a ton of action up front, but what we did see was 2 people playing chess with each other and doing so in a way that was reminiscent of an old school Kung Fu movie. Like, these 2 guys just have so much style and flair. But the thing that backs it up is we both know, like we all know, that at any time one of these guys could just let loose and we don't know if the other person can counter. So we saw a lot of that round 1. Round 2 was a bit more fast paced with Anderson showing us that he still has a chin. The man was taking some shots and staying right there in him, and still goading Israel in with his with the low hands and kind of taunting, and Israel returning back with the same and not getting drawn in whenever Anderson goes up against the cage. I think less experienced fighters would say, "Oh, I've got him on the ropes. Let's finish him." And then of course we have Anderson trying to take the head off of Israel. So there was a lot of really good action that happens in the end. I think it was 2 counter strikers who didn't get a ton of offense off, but really put on a great show.
You have anything else to add, John?
No, that's pretty much the tactical analysis of the situation.
All right.
I can't put it any better than what he just did.
So while I didn't watch the fight, I did watch the interviews after the weigh-ins, and I did watch I watched the post-fight press conference after UFC 234. And I thought it was interesting that Israel Adesanya was talking about the fact that he probably has watched more film on Anderson Silva than anyone he's ever faced, because he was a big fan. So he's watched all the fights. He's seen all the tricks. And so seeing Anderson Silva put his hands down and stick his chin out and put himself on the back of the cage, Israel Adesanya said that he was recognizing what the game was and he would not allow himself to get drawn in. So it was really interesting, KC, and you talking about the fact that these things were going on, and Israel Adesanya stayed poised in his element. When in the post-fight press conference, he's talking to the reporters saying, "Hey, I saw what he was attempting to do, but because I've watched so much film, because I'm such a big fan, I know that that's a trap, and I stayed clear of it, and that's why he was able to be successful." So I thought it was a really interesting way to book in that you could see him recognizing the traps as they were being laid by the spider.
Great fight, all in. The only thing that I would say against it is, given that it was the main event, I would have loved for them to push it 5. Neither of those guys looked gassed at the end of 3. And I think we all felt a little bit cheated because we started to see Anderson pour it on and figure out his timing a little more in the 3rd.
So I heard that it was because they had just contracted 3 rounds. So to have to rewrite they didn't rewrite the contracts for 5. But after the fight, Chris Weidman called Israel Adesanya overrated. Paulo Costa said that Israel would not last 2 rounds with him. John, is that crazy talk or is that just haterade? John, is John, you still there? KC, is that crazy talk or is that haterade?
I think it's absolutely crazy talk. First off, Weidman, holy cow. You called out Anderson Silva after the loss. Who does that? Like, all right, so I get that you want to say that Izzy's overrated, but let's first talk about the fact that you want to call out a guy that you've beaten twice and is ranked, number 15 now? So you're just admitting that your career is over and you just need some money. Second part of that is he overrated? Not based on what we saw. There's no way. The man has won in his first year in the UFC 5 straight fights. That's unprecedented. It's arguably the best opening year in the UFC ever. Paulo Costa, I mean, up front, I got to be honest, Israel might have some problems with Costa. But to say he wouldn't last 2 rounds is childish. I don't see that. I don't see Izzy going down in the first 2 simply because his footwork is impeccable and his ability to evade intense damage has been proven out over and over.
So, John,
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Israel Adesanya versus Paul Costa. Anybody against Israel at this point is going to face problems. I think Adesanya has proven himself time and time and time again that he is a force to deal with. Okay, a lot of people are questioning his ground game. I'm like, you can question it all you want to, but don't go there. Okay, because I do believe that he'll have something waiting for you if you try this ground game. I do believe that. So, I mean, I'm gonna say anybody at this point, go ahead and try your fill if you want to.
All right.
You'll be sadly disappointed.
Well, let's close the book on this one and put it on the shelf because this card is history. Now let's look at the headlines that are making waves in the wake of UFC 234 with Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at all of the things that people are talking about in the UFC and the MMA world. The big question that I have is what now for 185? Because we were supposed to get some clarity around the 185-pound middleweight division with Robert Whitaker fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Then we would have a winner, and the winner would then fight the winner of Israel Adesanya and Anderson Silva, which Israel is the winner. So that would be your next title fight. But now you've got a champion who's out, what they say is 4 to 6 weeks, but some reports say much longer. You've got Kelvin Gastelum, who's walking around carrying around a belt, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And you've got Israel Adesanya, who's saying he's the number 1 contender because he came and showed up to work. So I want to know what you guys think. Who should get the title shot?
Right now, I still think Whitaker and Gastelum need to go ahead and fight. All right, Gastelum does have a point that he showed up. And the other dude forfeit. I didn't like the WWE angle they had going on there with him walking around with that belt. It had me tripping for a little bit, He also had cootie bumps too, which if anything, I hope whoever gave him that belt, they sterilized that sucker too afterwards. Whitaker, Gastelum, and then after that, the winner of that fights Adesanya, and then it is what it is. All should be right in the world.
You agree with that, Casey?
I guess he does.
I guess he does. Silence is
accepted.
Silence is agreement.
I have no qualms with that, but what I want to hear is the Smith viewpoint.
No, I mean, I think that the contract is the contract. The fight was supposed to be Robert Whitaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. So we got to resolve that first. Israel Adesanya's, he's supposed to be the number one contender, but he isn't because Kelvin Gastelum is the number one contender. And so once that's resolved, I agree with John. It should go straight to Israel Adesanya. He should be sitting outside the ring waiting for that outcome. Now, I do have to say that if Robert Whitaker proves that he is not able to bounce back in 4 to 6 weeks, then you should go straight into the interim title shot, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. I think that's a great fight. I want to see it. And then when Robert Whitaker comes back, whatever time that is, then you unify the title and away you go.
Well, hold on there, Kimosabi. Okay, because Dana said some things that I didn't even I would say was hypocritical about holding up the belt for so long, and that the game's got to move on. Okay, if Whitaker is only out for 4 to 6 weeks, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. They did say there's a chance that he'll be out for months. If he's out for months, that belt's got to move. Okay, yeah. You're right. I would, but see, Dana is kind of iffy on that. He's kind of sitting there saying, well, we'll wait for him and everything like that. But he has consistently said on 2 other occasions that the belt will move if the fighter does not fight.
Yeah, I think that's consistent with what he said the night after the fights, that he's expecting for Robert Whitaker to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, but if he's out for longer, then he will have to start looking at what they're going to do from an interim perspective. He's not hoping that that's going to happen, but that's the reality. So I don't know that it's hypocritical, other than the fact that Conor McGregor, of course, was allowed to keep the belt for quite some time without having to defend it.
Well, I don't think there needs to be an interim. There needs to go ahead and be a champion.
No.
Okay, not an interim.
No, because Robert Whitaker is the champion, and you should have to beat the champion. It's not like he was, riding motorcycles and got hurt. He was just fighting. He was holding back on an injury all the way up to game day. If you want to play devil, but you can't take the belt away for that. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's a fight game. You have to win the belt. You got to beat the champ to be the champ, unless the champ is stripped of his title because of some wrongdoing, aka John Jones. Just saying.
Okay, I agree with you on that, but at the same time, there are those people out there that feel that they should move the title on. I'm one of those people that think, you know what? I get it. He's injured. Let him heal up. In the meantime, he slips to the number one contender. We have a championship fight. Let them go ahead and have the championship fight. And when he's ready to come back to the ring, that's the first match he gets.
So what is? I don't understand what the difference is, because an interim title is the championship until the champion comes back. You're gonna. I
guess I'm kind of burnt out on the interim faction.
Well, yeah, because there's a marketing advantage in having a fight where it's for an interim title and then a unification fight. Like the increase in the number of views that you will buy, that people will buy because of the fact that it's a title shot or a reunification. It's marketing strategy. But at the end of the day, this is one of those times where even in a sane world, you have this is where you would have an interim title in the event that your champion was ill and was suffering from some illness, kept him out of the fight. You got to keep the belt moving. And so this is where you have an interim. There were other cases where you shouldn't have, like when Tyron Woodley was out with his surgery. That was not a time for an interim title shot, but they gave Colby Covington an interim title anyway. Like, that was dumb. Tyron Woodley was 1 month. He was out. He had surgery. He was coming back the following month. There should not have been an interim title. In my opinion, I guess it worked out, but I don't think that John Jones and Alex Gustafsson should have fought for a vacated title there. So there are some decisions that the UFC as a promotion has made that I think that I disagree with. But this is one of those times where you don't strip Robert Whitaker from his title just because of his illness. I think you go have a stern talking with him about hiding illnesses like this and then ruining cards. I mean, that he needs to have a talking to there.
Okay.
Kelvin Gastelum was taking pictures with Henry Cejudo's legacy belt. Connor called him a worm. Israel Adesanya, from his post-fight comments, told him to put the belt down. I just thought it was kind of low class to do that. I mean, you know what? Don't walk around with the championship belt. You didn't earn it. You borrowing someone else's belt. Like, that right there just seems, I don't know. I wouldn't do that.
It was low class, in my opinion. Like I said, the WWE side of the game. That was, I mean, if he was doing that to taunt him, okay, yeah, but don't sit there and call yourself the champion. He could have worded that a million different ways, okay, and I would have been okay with it. But to sit there and say, yeah, he forfeited, I'm the champion now, nah.
KC,
I gotta say that it's a man who has busted his butt to get to the title. He's had his own series of wrongdoings and missing weight and having other issues getting up to that point. But when it comes down to it, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something to get that title, like, yeah, you're going to be irrational when it's taken away from you. So he was a bit childish with it, but to say that it was low class, like, nah. You got the heart of a competitor, and the thing that you want most in the world was taken away from you. Yeah, you're gonna act out. I don't care who you are.
No, grown ass men don't act out. I'm sorry.
Oh, say that every time that there's a press conference and they start getting into pithy back and forth.
Those are totally different things. I mean, on the one hand, this is someone who's had the clarity of being able to, you don't go and go to Twitter and be like, hey, I understand, get well, champ, I'll see you when you get back, and try to be the bigger man and the good sportsman, and then walk around the arena with the belt. That you just don't do it. You're either childish or you're not, and you shouldn't be childish.
I don't believe those happened at the same time. I think he was rebuked because he found out later the seriousness of Robert Whitaker's issues. I don't think most of us knew in real time the fact that this was a life-threatening injury, not just a discomfort.
No, the situation was when he found out about it, he tweeted out about, get well soon, whatever. He had the entire day to plan getting the belt, and he walked around the arena with the belt. So it's not like he was like this was him in his initial reaction to grab the belt and walk around like he's a champ. No, he had an opportunity to sit down and think through that and talk to Henry Cejudo and borrow Henry Cejudo's belt, who's walking around with his belt, to do that. So no, I don't give Kelvin Gastelum any type of breaks here, because the fact is that you had the opportunity to take the high road. You had the opportunity to be the professional, and then you went around carrying this belt like you have somehow some claim to it. That's 125-pound belt you're carrying. You're a 185-pounder.
Well, the good news is he's going to sell more fights, which is I mean, I guess I just don't understand how people can be mad at him, but they also love the drama.
That wasn't drama.
That to me, I mean, there's two ways you can look at that.
That was Colby
really
Covington
drama,
crap.
like Ryan was saying. That wasn't drama at all, but, he drew more confusion than drama, in my opinion, because I was watching this. I'm like, wait a minute, is he the champ? Is this happening? No confirmation from Dana White, no nothing. That drew confusion for me, okay? And I'm pretty sure it drew confusion from a lot of people. They're like, what is he doing? Is he the champ now? Is he not the champ? What's going on?
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's people like me that, I normally I like seeing drama, but that wasn't it. It didn't feel good. It did not feel good at all.
That was
So he
Colby
made a
Covington level.
level cringe situation,
Yes.
but he's falling victim to this is an emotional sport, and people will keep pushing in and making it. I think as a whole, things get blown out of proportion. You got a guy walking around with a championship belt. Are any of you guys personally hurt by this?
Listen, when Anderson Silva broke his leg on Chris Weidman's knee, I wasn't personally hurt by it. That isn't a. But I'm still reacting to it. I'm still connected to it. I mean, we comment on this sport every single week. We are part of this sport. So
all right.
I don't see.
I get that, but I think for anyone to take personal offense, like he didn't say anything bad about Whitaker. He just wanted the belt and felt that he had earned it. Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely, I don't know. For me, there's something wrong with that. Number one, you wanted the belt, so you took someone else's belt. You wanted to walk around. You wanted the belt so bad, you had to go and borrow a 125-pound belt so you could feel like a champion.
Would it be more egregious if he wasn't even in a title shot and had taken a belt to walk around with?
It would not have been more egregious. It would have been equally egregious. I don't know a single situation where a guy who has not just won the championship carries a belt and takes pictures as though he is the champion. That is just low class to me. I'm sorry. When Conor took Jose Aldo's belt, I thought that was low class. There's a propriety to it. You either the belt means something or it doesn't. Now in the UFC, perhaps it doesn't mean anything. Perhaps it's not a big deal when Kelvin Gastelum picks up a 125-pound belt as a 185er and walks around with it. I don't know, but to me, if you have the sportsmanship and the respect and all of those things that you profess. And then when the champion goes down because he has some life-threatening illness and he pulls out of the fight, and then you go and say, get well, champ, I'll be waiting for you or whatever, and then that night at the fight, you're walking around with Henry Cejudo's belt, it just seems fake to me. Like, what's the real guy?
Or like a really great heel.
Yeah. Like I said, but Kelvin Gastelum ain't built for that heel talk. Okay, that's also another thing I consider. If that had been Chael Sonnen, this conversation wouldn't even be happening.
I disagree. I would have had this conversation with Chael Sonnen, because for me that is Colby Covington level stuff. That is base. That is ground level, dragging your belly on the floor that low. And so Colby Covington taking pictures and doing all these videos that he's doing with his defunct belt that's been stripped of him because he's ducking Tyron Woodley, that is the level that I see it at. I go back to, this is a belt that he has not earned. This is a 125-pound belt he's carrying. That's the belt. You ain't no champ. Don't carry the belt. Win the belt. That's all.
I was waiting for you to say he's a chump. I was waiting on that. I really was.
Who should Anderson Silva face in his hometown of Curitiba, Brazil? So after this fight, everyone thought that maybe after Israel Adesanya defeated Anderson Silva, that Anderson would announce his retirement. But the UFC is scheduled to go to Curitiba, Brazil. This is the hometown of Anderson Silva. He's coming to the end of his career. They went there one other time, and he was either ineligible to fight because of performance-enhancing drugs or some other type of injury kept him out of fighting in his hometown. So it's kind of the swan song. It's building up to be the swan song for Anderson Silva. This long career, it's almost 20-year career in the UFC, and he wants to fight in Curitiba, his hometown. So the question for you guys, who should be that fight? Anderson Silva said that he wants Nick Diaz. Israel Adesanya said he'd love to see him fight Jared Cannonier.
I want to see him to fight Diaz. He's been calling for that fight for a long time. And curious to note, as I say that, it's been reported today that Diaz is starting to train again.
You want to see that fight? Nick Diaz versus Anderson Silva, Casey?
I am in no way interested in that fight. The Diaz brothers fighting style is trash at this point. I don't really care for the Compton slap. And last time we saw Diaz against Silva, it was the most boring fight that has ever been. No, I'm not going to put it that way because we've seen Derek Lewis fight. It was just not a great show. I think if it's a money fight for someone who deserves it, give him Conor. Conor said he's interested in the fight. Conor can't really fight anyone that would advance his career at this point. So why not do an exhibition bout?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I'll take Nick Diaz just because I don't have an emotional feeling around Anderson Silva fighting anyone else. Like the people that I'd want to see Anderson Silva fight are no longer in the UFC. Like I would love for him to roll that one more back with Chael Sonnen. That would be great for me. I would love that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the problem, I mean, I fully understand that statement. So why should Anderson take a meaningless fight in the Diaz fight? At least with Conor, he gets a payday, which I think you can really hype up the style of Anderson against the precision of Conor. That's something you can sell. No one's actually interested in the. I'm not actually interested in the Diaz fight, other than all right. Well, it'll be a return to action for a Diaz.
Anderson Silva said that he wants to fight Nick Diaz because the last fight was ruled a no contest because Nick Diaz got popped for marijuana metabolites and Anderson Silva got popped for performance-enhancing drugs. Personally, you know what fight would be great to see? I'd like to see him versus Chris Weidman.
That was talked about too. Okay, and Weidman is interested in that fight as well.
I would see that fight because the first one, we could say that Anderson Silva lost because of the showboating. We could say the second one, we know he lost because of the broken leg. So let's see. I mean, both of them have aged. Let's see what happens. I would be down to see it. And by the way, I'd still have Chris Weidman.
Honestly, I would like to see that because I don't believe that second fight, for me, that was a freak accident. And therefore, there was no true winner in that.
Chris Weidman said he trained that check.
Yeah, okay, but I don't think anybody was expecting a break. Okay, I think everybody was expecting him to stop kicking that kick, but nobody was expecting that break.
Well, he stopped kicking it.
Oh, that's cold-blooded, dude. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's so cold-blooded. Yeah, so I need to see that third one. I need to see if it happens, if they can get in there, who really does it? Who really does it?
Yeah. So Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor for the 155-pound interim title. So we know that Khabib Nurmagomedov is currently on the bench for the next 9 months. And Dana White is saying that Khabib is also talking about just taking 2019 off. I don't know if he can do that, but if in the event that
just won't be with the belt,
that Khabib takes the year off, there is an opportunity for an interim title here. I mean, he's already out 9 months. That's a long time for a champion. I think that 6 months is kind of the limit. If you're out for 6 months or more, we should start looking for an interim title. Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor, they're starting to build a lot of attention, a lot of excitement. People want to see that fight, and they want to see it for a 155-pound championship. But there's a guy by the name of Tony El Kukui Ferguson who deserves that fight. He's been waiting. He's been the interim title holder. Then he hurt his leg, blew out his MCL and LCL and all the CLs, and had his title stripped. So, but he's still the number one guy. And the work that he did on Anthony Pettis, I mean, he still got it. So I guess my big question for you guys is, what should happen here? I mean, Dana White's saying that Tony is the guy. He should be the guy. How do we resolve 155? What with Khabib out? Do we wait? What? KC.
No, we can't wait.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, let's start with KC this time.
Nah, it's a money game. So this is one of those where no matter what makes sense from a standings point of view, it's going to come down to Conor calls the shots here. He's the king of MMA right now, and it's the UFC is a business more so than a true sport. So he's going to call the shot, and I think he gets a random title shot for no reason.
John?
We can't wait forever. I understand why Khabib's doing what he's doing. He's doing it for solidarity in his teammates because he feels that it was unfair for what happened to him. That could be disputed for another day. In the meantime, man, it's gonna be. It's like y'all said, it's a money thing. Okay, it makes money sense to put Conor versus Cerrone first, and then have Kukui come in right after. It just makes the money sense. Okay, because everybody, Conor and Cerrone has a little bit more. I think all the beef started at that Dallas kickoff show. I honestly think that's where all of it started. It started. So with that said, let those two go ahead and have their beef, have their fight. Tony's always going to be number one contender regardless. So he should just wait it out and get the super payday right there, unless he wants to be great. Because I don't think a Cerrone Kukui matchup first.
No, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, Cerrone just made it back to the 155-pound division. He's been fighting at 170. Right. So it makes most sense that if Khabib is out for 9 months or more, that you fight the Conor McGregor-Tony Ferguson fight. That's the fight. I mean, because Conor McGregor and Tony Ferguson, they're both 155ers. They're both at the top of the division. Tony Ferguson can hold his own on the mic. I mean, he's a little weird dude. That's why I like him. But he can hold his own on the mic against Conor McGregor. Go ahead and have that fight. And because Cowboy's going to be around. Cowboy will take that Conor fight anytime, anywhere. But you don't let Cowboy Cerrone jump the line and get in front of El Kukui. The only reason why it's an interesting fight right now is because El Kukui's not saying anything. So if I was Tony Ferguson, I'd be like, whoa, Nelly, if you want to fight somebody, Conor, you need to fight me. Stop talking about wanting to fight Anderson Silva. Stop talking about wanting to fight Cowboy Cerrone. Actually, stop talking about wanting to fight Nasukawa because of what Floyd Mayweather did. Like Conor is really trying to find himself a fight because I think his star is starting to dim a little bit from a fight game perspective because he's taken that last loss. He needs to fight Tony if he's going to fight for a title. Don't fight for a title. You can fight Cowboy Cerrone.
I understand that.
Daniel Cormier pushes back his retirement date. So Daniel Cormier, the double champ, heavyweight and light heavyweight, or former light heavyweight champion of the world, was supposed to retire on his 40th birthday, was sometime in March. But because of illnesses, he is pushing back his retirement date because he will likely not be ready before his 40th birthday. He said in MMA Fighting, he said, I hurt my back in New York City when I sneezed. This was no joke, and it's just still trying to rehab it and getting better. You're getting old when you pull your back when you sneeze.
Hey, I've been there, done that.
Because you're old.
I'm still very young.
Well, you're more like 2 days after, or before me, I think, or 2 days after. Goodness, yeah, you're okay.
No, KC is a whole decade.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's how you're getting old when you sneeze and pull your back. Dude has a thumb injury. He's got arthritis in his wrist.
Oh, let's just say it for what it is. He's not going to retire because we all know the reason why he's not going to retire.
Well, he's still chasing Brock.
It's not Brock. It's not Brock. It's Jones. Okay? He wants Jones. He's gonna sit there and come up with he's gonna come up with a reason why he can't fight Brock. I'm telling you. He's gonna come up with a reason why he can't fight Brock. Oh, my middle finger is twisted. I twisted it, rolling on the ground. I can't fight him right now, but I'll fight Jones afterwards. I guarantee
personally,
it's gonna go like that.
I disagree with you simply because, number one, has anyone heard anything from Brock Lesnar at all?
Last time I looked, Brock Lesnar is signed with the WWE, and he's the Universal Heavyweight Champion right now.
Is he? Because I thought he lost it at SummerSlam.
Did he? Let me look.
Look it up, because I thought he lost it at SummerSlam. However, I haven't heard anything about Brock Lesnar coming back. Maybe he's just sitting on the couch letting the juice leave his body. But the other thing is that Daniel Cormier said that he would fight Stipe Miocic again. He wouldn't fight John Jones. So he's not even talking about John Jones. I just think it's funny because the whole reason why I called Anderson Silva at 43 years old aging is because you got 39-year-old Daniel Cormier going, my neck, my back, and my back. I want 120,000.
And he's literally getting that. Okay, so Brock Lesnar is the current Universal Champion, and he's getting ready to do a re-sign on his contract offers.
But he did lose the title at SummerSlam.
If he lost it, he caught it right back. He got it right back.
For the record, Brock is still training. He's doing a lot of wrestling work right now, so that would indicate he's prepping for DC. There's just been no official word yet. That's an Instagram game, fam.
So Roman Reigns defeated Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam 2018. So if he got it back,
yeah, but he had to go because Roman Reigns is out. I thought Roman Reigns was out because he got like leukemia or something like that.
What?
Yes. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, he's currently on hiatus while undergoing treatment for leukemia. Yeah, man.
Wow. So
hey, combat sports. We don't just do the real stuff. We do the fake stuff too.
And in some cases, it's hard to tell the difference. Let's finish this up.
Blew your mind right there, Ryan. I smell it. It smells like burnt steak.
Yeah.
It just blew your mind.
All right.
I saw that.
Okay, last story. Ryan Bader's coach says he could beat Daniel Cormier in 5 rounds. So I don't know if this is because Daniel Cormier is injured with his back and his wrist and his thumb, or if he legitimately thinks he can beat 100% Daniel Cormier who's ready to fight. Either way, my last question for both of y'all is this ridiculous or is this worse than ridiculous?
I don't know. It could happen. He could probably beat him in 5 rounds of Call of Duty. Maybe 5 rounds of, well, I don't know if hot dog eating contest because, Daniel don't look like he missed meals. 5 rounds of pinochle, maybe.
All right. KC.
Maybe not dominoes. No, not dominoes.
I don't put it outside of the realm of possibility. I do also have to maintain that this is a coach talking about his fighter. Very rarely will a coach be like, I don't think that this guy could take him. But also, if you do believe that Bellator is somewhat close to on par with what UFC is putting together, then you do have a champ in Ryan Bader, who's proven that he can beat just about anyone that you put in front of him. He did take down the legend in Fedor. Why not say that he's got a chance against Cormier? I mean, what he's shown is his fight intelligence has gone up as he's gotten older. So you put together a good game plan, and anyone is beatable in this. Is it completely ludicrous? Absolutely not, except for the fact that you got a Bellator fighter wanting to fight a UFC fighter. I just don't see how that whole thing comes together.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I agree with you, KC, that I don't see how you're going to get a Bellator fighter to fight a UFC for 2 reasons. Number one, you're not going to get it because it doesn't benefit the UFC to have that fight. We think that it would be like this great super fight between champ and champ. But the fact is that having Ryan Bader come into the UFC when he effectively left is a stain for Dana White. And for two, if Ryan Bader wins that fight, then that legitimizes the competition level in Bellator. So I don't think you want to put that risk when you're the number one guy. You just don't want to do it. So, between those two, I don't see why that would ever happen. So when the coach says that he thinks that Ryan Bader would beat Daniel Cormier in less than 5 rounds, what that is that's an unverifiable prediction. And right. So it's easy to say that because it will never be tested, and so if it doesn't happen, then he's no worse for wear.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose by throwing out a statement that you believe to be true that cannot be tested.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about things that can't be tested in the fight card. This is the fight card. This is where we look forward to the fights that are coming up this weekend. KC and I, we have conversations and we talk about the fact that we don't give love to some of these regional promotions and things like that. So I wanted to give love to the Legacy Fighting Alliance, LFA. They're having their LFA 60, Julius Angelicus versus Clayton York, or Angelicus versus Clayton York for the light heavyweight championships taking place at Seven Flags in Des Moines, Iowa, February 15th, 2019. We've also got Bellator. The red-crested stepchild has Bellator 215, Matt Mitrione versus Karatanov, February 15th, 2019 at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut. The two key fights to watch there is Eduardo Dantas versus Toby Misch, and Matt Mitrione versus Sergey Karatanov. So let's do a flash fight pick. Matt Mitrione versus Karatanov. Karatanov has a win over a TKO win over Roy Nelson, by the way.
Who doesn't at this point in Roy's career?
Oh, man, that's cold blood in the game.
Harsh.
Big facts.
All right, who you got? John, we'll go with you first.
I'll go with Meathead, man.
Matt
Mitrione. Meathead can do it.
All right. KC.
I am going to be the contrarian again.
Okay, you're not the contrarian because rule number 1, never vote against the Russian. Sergey Karatanov is a Russian, so I got the Russian. All right, let's go on to UFC on ESPN. Ngannou versus Velasquez, the return of Cain Velasquez. Brown Pride. February 17th, 2019, Talking Stick Resort Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. There are 6 fights on the card. We'll run through it, then we'll make some flash fight picks. Andre Touchy-Feely versus Miles Jury. That's going to be a good fight. Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberena. You got Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Kron Gracie. It's another generation of the Gracies coming in. Courtney Casey versus Cynthia Calvillo. You got James Vick, a Texan, the Texecutioner, versus Paul Felder. And the main event is Francis Ngannou versus Cain Velasquez. So let's make some flash fight picks, folks. I know you wanted to say something about the Kron Gracie. John, real quick.
Yes, Kron Gracie. This is the next generation Gracie. This is Hickson's son. Okay, so chances are going to be good. You will see Hickson in his corner. So,
all right,
undefeated, by the way.
Yeah, Alex Caceres has a big task for him, but this is one where I would love to see Bruce Leroy get that puncher's chance and ruin the debut for Kron Gracie. All right, let's go with the James Vick versus Paul Felder. Casey, I'll go with you first.
Man, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to go Paul Felder here.
All right. That's the man from Philadelphia.
The Irish Dragon, I believe it's.
I believe so. John.
I'm gonna stay with the hometown favorite. I'm going with the Texecutioner.
All right.
James Vick.
That's right. I'm going with James Vick too. I mean, dude, I still believe that he just is way too big for that weight class. He got stopped, but in his last fight, I believe. But I still got James Vick and Francis Ngannou versus Cain Velasquez. John, who you got?
Man, Francis doesn't have the confidence that Cain's going to bring into that ring. Okay, he's going to. I see Cain coming in there. His intimidation factor alone is going to shy Francis Ngannou up. Cain is going to beat him down. Sorry.
KC.
Much like the fat kid that you are, I am going with raising Cain's hand.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, the fact is that there is ring rust. Cain Velasquez hasn't fought in like 2 years, maybe even longer than that. But Francis Ngannou has no ground game. We're talking about an elite wrestler that he's getting ready to fight, and this is going to be, this is going to be reminiscent of when Cain Velasquez fought Bigfoot Silva. And Cain Velasquez took Bigfoot Silva down, pinned him to the ground, and then cut a hole in his head so big that they literally painted the town red.
Bloodbath.
So I predict lots of blood. This is going to be probably the fight that gets Francis Ngannou thinking about seeking life elsewhere in Bellator.
Wow, we're doing that. Is that's legit? Is that what we're doing?
All right, I got one correction before we go. Last week I said Joanna Jędrzejczyk was on a 3-fight losing streak. That was incorrect. She's actually lost 3 of her last 4. She lost 2 to Rose. She beat Tisha Torres and then lost to Valentina Shevchenko. So I wanted to make that correction before we go. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan. KC doesn't do Twitter, and John is still working on Instagram.
Victory with Keyes. What was that? Did you
So you still working on the Instagram, man. Like Twitter is not a thing for you.
Not yet.
Yeah. I am at Combat Sports Talk, and KC does lots of Instagram.
Let's go with Push, Pull, Pray.
How do you spell that?
Your mom.
Wow.
You can find us on all your podcast platforms. My favorite is Anchor FM and Spotify, but you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can even find us sometimes on YouTube. Our website is www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find our merch on combatsportstalk.com as well. It's on Amazon. Just go look for merchandise on our website. That's about it. Let's do it. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For KC Onyebuchi and John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.